Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today, we're joined by Hamed Ghajarnia from DreamLaunch. Now, DreamLaunch is a particular business that helps people that are looking to launch a hardware product to the market that might have some tech in it and may not. Hamed, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew.
Now, Hamed, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got involved in pretty much engineering space.
Yes, I studied polymer engineering back in Iran, where I
Hmm.
grew up and born there. I worked in a lot of different industry in polymer area, in plastics, rubber,
Yes.
composites, and things,
Hmm.
in lots of different areas, from normal engineering, R&D, to having my own company, doing consultations in lots of different markets there. I moved to Australia in 2010
Hmm.
and did the same thing. So I started working in different industries again, and then I'm working with the manufacturing industry company called Moore Industry in the rubber and plastic industry and
Okay.
markets again.
Hmm.
And then we started DreamLaunch in almost 5 years ago.
About 5 years ago,
Um,
yep.
yeah, and the aim and the reason that we started the company was that through my whole career, I was working with a lot of different people who actually wants to develop a new idea that they had, a new product, and it's really difficult for someone who has not have the technical background, and
Mm.
they struggle a lot in a lot of different processes and things. This needs experience and skills. So the aim was to really help these guys, help people with the idea, inventors, startups, small, big companies, with our knowledge through this whole process, because we know that this is a big journey for anyone's start getting involved, and definitely you need help to get it right.
Oh, couldn't agree more. And yeah, one of the reasons why we obviously started DevReady Podcast was to help people more from a software perspective. That's our space. It's
Correct.
an area we've got the experience in. But hardware is a very interesting place and game. There's a lot of challenges in that, especially from a prototyping perspective. So,
Mhm.
Dream Launch. If I come to you, I have an idea around a product. What do we do? Where do we start? What does it look like generally for someone that's looking to build a product? Like I said, it may have some tech in it, it may not. It may just be a particular piece of equipment or some sort of gizmo or gadget. So
Mhm.
where do they start generally?
Yes, as I said, we're working with people with startups in lots of different entry level in terms of the whole process of developments. But
Okay.
lots of the people that comes to us, they might only have just an idea. I give you a sort of a journey
Hmm.
map, let's say, as where it can start, and we'll try to build a sort of a process that we can help them sort of like end to end.
Get it.
And for that, we try to work with some of the partners that we have,
Hmm.
because yes, we're working mostly in hardware
Yes.
sector, which can be,
Hmm.
for example, a mix of mechanical, electrical,
Hmm.
electronic,
Hmm.
IoT. But some product needs a bit of software or app to it,
Hmm.
or some development needs, for example, a little bit of marketing strategy
Yes.
development, business development, funding, investment, a lot of other things. So we're trying to cover all of it with some of our partners to be able to support anyone in this whole journey. But the main things that start for anyone is usually is from the idea. So
Hmm.
you might come up with an idea which you think that's great. You want to build your, company, startups, and then look into the internet, search for similar product ideas. Working with you, different people that they can help you, guide you, give you some feedbacks. But then you want to go ahead with your idea, build it. I will cover some of the things that you might not do correctly,
Hmm.
and that's some of the common mistakes that you might do in that very early stages. But when they come to us, usually, if you have an idea, we can sit with you and discuss about the idea, the features, the market, the customers, what you actually have as a solution, if it's a good one or not. We'll help you sort of validate and give you some feedbacks
Hmm.
about the idea. Usually, what happens in the product development is that next we need to put together sort of a design brief on what you want to develop, the features, functions, and everything around it. Then we start the process of a concept design. So it's usually included putting together some sketches of the design, of how it's going to look like, how the features and functions going to work. It's only a sketch and concept, but then we work on that concept based on the market research and the customer feedbacks and developments that the client and the founders already done or needs to be done. And then if all correct and it works well, then we go to the next step, which usually is working on modeling CAD files and then put all those sketches and concept into the actual working model. Usually the next step would be detail engineering. So we go into the details of each parts, materials, specification. We usually consider the manufacturing process because that's a very important part in there.
It is,
You need
yeah.
to make sure that the design you make it's actually manufacturable, because lots of the
Interesting.
problem
Yeah.
that the people do, especially if they go and approach some other companies that they only are
Uh-huh.
design companies,
Yes.
or they are not have that experience of the manufacturing before. So you can design anything. It looks great. It looks beautiful.
It
But
costs
then
you
you can make it.
$1,000 to
Yeah.
manufacture,
Oh,
yes.
the
Yes.
process is too hard.
Mhm.
Then sometimes you give up, or the manufacturer tells you, oh, it's too expensive,
Mhm.
or it can't fit into your target price range, because that's another very important features in your customer development. You need to find out how much you can sell your product to your target clients or customers, and you need to make sure that the whole development processes meet that target. Otherwise,
Okay.
at the end, you can't sell it. That's another point. So that's very important things you need to do in that sort of range of development process.
Mhm.
What we do later on is making a prototype. Prototype usually can have maybe 2, 3 different types. So
Okay.
first of all, at the earliest stage, you make a mock-up. It's only look like your product, and that's good to just prove your concept.
Yes.
Lots of the time, you only need to make sure that your concept is actually working.
Mhm.
You do that prototype with very basic things you can find out everywhere. We can buy maybe simple things, just put it together. After we did all the detail engineering, then we can make an initial prototype. That's usually for finding issues in design, finding an issues in the whole features and functions, if they are really working on it. They're usually called alpha prototype.
Okay.
Based on that result, which you can make few more of it, and each time you find the problems, fix it, make another one, make
So
sure
it's an
that the whole.
iterative process working through that.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And it's very
It's
important,
almost like an
because
integration test.
you need to find those
True.
issues early enough.
Yes.
Because if you go with those issues later on in the manufacturing, the cost of those would be great.
It can be catastrophic to the business, I would
Definitely.
imagine.
Correct.
Yep.
So then when it's done, when you've done all the improvement in the engineering and in the design, and maybe sometimes in the whole concept, then you make your beta prototype, which is actually your working prototype.
Okay.
That
Is that
working
like the
prototype.
manufacturer in copy or the
Uh,
prior one to that?
No, not necessarily, because there is still a lot of changes that you might need to do in your
Okay.
developments. And what we do again is we have some in-house capabilities in making
Yes.
prototypes, but because the range of the product we're working is very, very wide, then we're using some subcontractors and suppliers for the prototype making.
Mm-hmm.
We usually use a lot of different processes as well: CNC machining, rapid injection molding, vacuum castings, a lot of different things, 3D printing, and all that sort of things. But what we do, just to make sure that the IP of the product remains safe, is that we don't send everything to one supplier.
So keep
no one
us.
really
Yeah,
have
interesting.
everything
Okay.
of
Everything's
the product.
segmented.
Correct. Yes. Of course, it makes it a bit difficult to manage, but that's fine. That's what,
Well, it's a
what we
trade-off, yeah,
feel.
security versus
Correct.
the benefits then.
That's right. So then when you have your working prototype, then that's the time that you sort of have your MVP ready. You have your proof of concept, you have your working prototype, you have your mechanism and functions all working. That's your MVP. Now you're ready to move into some other things and make it ready for manufacturing.
It sounds like
We
a
have-
big process, Hamed.
It
How
is,
long
it
can
is.
this take for somebody that's thinking about this, trying to develop something that's a piece of hardware or something that's physical?
That's right.
But how long can this really take?
It really depends on the complexity of your product and your idea, but it might simply take from a very, very simple product that it might take maybe 3 months to a product that it might take even more than 2 years.
2 years,
to go through
wow.
all
Oh,
the
wow.
process.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned earlier that one of the first steps is helping them validate their idea.
Mhm.
What's involved in helping them validate their idea when they're approaching a hardware product?
In that validation, what's very important is that's part of one of the normal mistakes that a lot of people do. For lots of people, the idea comes from your pain point.
Yes.
So you
Mm-hmm.
have a problem,
Mhm.
something that you deal with, something that you see it's not working as you wish,
Mhm.
and you say that, all right, I've got an idea, a solution for it. The problem in most of these cases, and that's maybe called like an inventor problem. Most of these people are getting in love with their solution. They love
Yep.
what they come up with.
It's easy to fall in love with your own ideas. Yes.
Yeah, that's that's a big trick,
Yes.
but a lot of people get involved in that.
Uh-huh.
So they put all their focus on the idea,
Yes.
and maybe they do a bit of research. They talk to their friends, family, things like this.
Mhm.
The problem in most of these cases is your friend and families don't want to upset you. They say something to not comment very harshly. Say,
Encourage
oh yeah,
you,
that's
right?
yeah. So they want to encourage
Yes.
you. They want to be nice,
Uh-huh.
but they not really telling you all the things.
Yes.
And another thing is they're not going to buy your product at that time too. So their
They may
feedback,
not even be the right customer at that point, so you're
exactly,
getting
that's
feedback just off the wrong people
that's
completely.
right. They are not
Mhm.
your final client
Mhm.
either. So you need to get that feedback from someone who are actually your early customers, early adopters,
Yes.
who going to buy your product,
Mhm.
and then find out if really they're going to buy it, and if this solution you have is something they're looking for, not
Mhm.
you love it.
Get it.
Yeah.
If really they want it too, and if
It's
that
their
problem is
problem
big
also,
enough
not
for
just
them
yours.
to, yeah, definitely. So what is the problem in most of these cases? That they're not doing all these processes, and they only come up with the idea or solutions that they love and they
Yes.
think is a good one.
Mhm.
So what we do with these guys is usually try to tell them, just stop, go one step back and just think and look into this. In a lot of times they not even done a very good research on the internet.
Okay.
You come back with them, sorry,
So no
have you
market
seen this
research,
product?
just they've basically come up with
Yes,
an idea and it's probably getting built down the road. We had a chat with
yeah. And there's a one
Yeah.
important thing too.
Uh-huh.
You will see, you probably have the same sort of experience as well. Not everyone really knows how to search. These days, searching is a skill for itself.
It is.
Yes,
How
it
you
is.
search,
Yes. Anthony
it
is
really
the
is.
number one searcher in the area on business, and if you want to find anything, speak to Anthony. That's how we do it in
Yeah.
our business.
It's
That's
like I said,
right.
it's a special way of asking, I think.
Mhm.
Correct. It's very important what to ask
Yes.
and how you
Mhm.
ask that question.
Correct.
Because search engines now are very smart in
Mhm.
how to answer you. They give you an answer that you will like, but it's
Yes.
not the whole answer.
Correct.
So
Yep.
that's very important things to how to ask, how to search. And lots of time we do the search for them, saying, have you seen this product?
Yes.
That's similar to yours.
If
No,
someone
where you
is
can
looking
find
to
it.
search, what's some tips there that you would advise to look for? Do you look up patents, for example? What do you do generally to find similar things or similar products?
Yeah, looking into the patents is good. Of course,
Mhm.
that's another topic to how
Yes.
to look into the patenting and IP registration, thing like this.
Uh-huh.
But one important thing is, first of all, you need to look into similar product,
Mhm.
which the same category of your product.
Mhm.
Okay.
Then you need to look into different market, maybe a product designed and already in the market, but they don't have the same keywords as you thinking because they are developed for a different market or they are developed with a different concept in mind.
Mhm.
So it could be a
Um,
similar product, but like targeted for pets rather than people,
Definitely,
Yeah,
yes.
as an
interesting.
example.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you need to go through all this. It usually takes time. You need to go through finding who's involved in that market, what they have in their range,
Mhm.
looking different platform, not only, for example, Google, you might need to look into social media, for example,
Mhm.
find out different product which is existing
Yep.
there,
Yes.
going through feedbacks. Maybe sometimes, there are something and there are some comments and reviews on the product. There
Would you
are
say
some
looking
links and
at
things. Yeah, you
like
can.
Amazon or AliExpress and Alibaba or
Yeah,
even
yeah.
Kickstarter?
Yeah, definitely. You can look into pictures. You search on your product or
Mhm.
whatever keywords you think of, look into the images that,
The image search, yep.
yeah, they bring up and see what else there. Then you can find something similar to idea, which totally different, name and keywords and things like this. But then through that links, you can find out who developed it for what's the feature, and
hmm
then it gives you some other,
Yeah,
hints
we
for.
had one previous guest, I think it was Tim Wormsley, Andrew.
Yeah, it was Tim Wormsley,
In fact,
correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he said he was renting all the time and he moved into a new property and he invented a door that slots in between your sliding door so then your cat can walk through. It's like a temporary pet door.
Okay, yep.
he didn't do any research, and then just before he went and invested in the actual proper prototype and getting like that lump sum investment to get it all built out, the next step from the one he built himself, he Googled, and then he found someone who had made it, I think it was 5 months earlier.
Yes, and
Or 5 years
manufacturing it.
potentially
Oh,
earlier,
even manufacturing
manufactured
it,
it.
like a couple of suburbs across. So it's very interesting
Yeah.
in
Mm.
Australia.
Yeah, they're in the same area in Australia and
Yes.
selling it online as it was.
That's right.
So like you said, yeah, that research component is critical to saving you a long-term headache and a large investment when it's not necessary.
Surely. But there's one trick here too, because that's again another things that I will hear from a lot of the people that I talk to, a lot of new founders or inventors. Lots of people come to me and say, I got $1 million idea. I searched the internet. I couldn't find anything in it. That's brilliant. I have the first one who's got this idea. I always ask them, do you think it's a good thing or bad thing?
Yep.
Interesting.
Good question.
Good question. There's a
Because,
reason why, isn't there? Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
It has two meanings.
Yes.
One is that someone else has done it before and failed. You need to make sure that if someone else has done this before or not, if you can't find it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not exist.
Yes.
But maybe it was exist in the past and the company failed and it's closed down.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to find out why,
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't necessarily is a bad thing, because maybe they have done it not good enough, or another very important thing is timing. Maybe they've done it in a bad timing.
Yes.
And they couldn't be successful, and now you can. But it's important for you to know why they failed, if they failed.
Yep.
And another thing is, let's say that there's nothing really out there, and you are really the first one come up with this idea. It's great, brilliant. You need to be careful, because that means that you are the first one, and you need to generate or make a new market. There's no market for it already. So that's even more difficult. New product is not that easy to build the market for. What I usually say to them is that competition is good, because you can learn a lot from your competitors. You can find out how they did. Go to their website, read their reviews, find out how they did, buy the product, analyze it, find out what they have done good and what they haven't done yet good enough. Improve the product already exists in the market.
I think you mentioned a few
Next
things
year,
on
customer. Yeah, you can add a few
I was
features
gonna
and
say,
things.
you not necessarily have to be first to market, because
Not
like you said, that's
necessarily.
a
They
challenge in
paved
developing
the
the
road
market.
for you. They already done a good job.
Yes.
And competition is validation.
Mhm.
If they already
Yep.
have a product in the market that's selling, that's a good point for you, because they can sell, you can sell it too.
Yes.
You can improve it, attract more customers.
That's
You just need to do something different and better.
There's this whole world around Amazon and the amount of products that exist. Do you find a lot of people, and I've seen these courses online, sell Amazon products, build your own product, design them. Do you get people coming to you from that perspective, looking to improve on what exists in the marketplace? Because you can get so much feedback on these products online, and then basically take that, evolve that, iterate it, and build something better. Is that an area that you're finding a bit of a trend in, or not really at all?
We have few different clients that they actually is like this. So they are working in an idea
Yes.
that it's already there, and you can find similar product in eBay's, Amazon's,
Yes.
elsewhere, and they want to improve it.
Mhm.
But really, that's what I said. It's probably like an inventor
Yes.
syndrome, that lots of these people think that if it's already something's there, then don't worry about it. I need to make something unique. That needs to be something that I only build, that no one else has got it. And as soon as they see that there is something similar in the market, say, someone's done it before.
Yes.
So we don't need to worry about it. But
That's interesting points.
it's really important.
So you're saying that's actually an opportunity rather than a detriment to actually explore that, look at the current products and potentially evolve them?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
That's very good things,
Because there's a market and they're actually viable.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yes.
You can learn a lot from your competitors. You can read their reviews, find out if their customers are happy, or if not, where and why. You can see improvements.
Yes.
And that could be a very good starting point.
Oh, that's very interesting. So a lot of time needs to be invested in research, and in the hardware space and in the software space. That's very similar. You need to research your product, understand who your customers are, who's going to buy. And I think something you said really importantly, I think the advantage we have in the software space is scale doesn't cost much, but in hardware space, you need to constantly produce one after the other after another product, and there's a fixed cost here. So understanding what you can sell a product early on is probably is really more important than it can be in the software space.
It's not
It is
even
very
the
important.
Yeah.
In most of the cost of development in software space is much less than hardware. If you build a product based on
Yes.
not realistic, information of your clients or market,
Uh-huh.
the cost that you need to bear until you can change it's huge.
Yeah, the
Development cost
production
is a
mistakes
lot.
are not as big.
Yes.
Yeah.
In software,
That's
it's a
right.
quicker iteration to resolve it as opposed to hardware. You have to go through the whole manufacturing and prototyping phase again.
Yes.
And research and market research, customer development usually doesn't cost you much. That's a time that actually you don't have really a lot of cost. So do it carefully.
Yes.
Do it a lot.
Okay.
And then start the product development. That's definitely is the key.
Yeah, it's good tips there because we can always jump head over foot, jump into something too quickly. We see it a lot in software, but like you said, there's a little bit less risk in software. It's not an easy game either. However, hardware, you get the manufacturing wrong and you've got 10,000 units and there's something wrong with them, you need to throw them out and start again, and maybe you don't have the funds to do that. So that's a big issue.
Correct. Yeah, because most of the startup companies,
Yes.
when they start, they don't have a lot of money or big budgets
Correct.
to go through. And unless you're making your MVP and ready to go to the market, it's really difficult to get investment and funding as well, because lots of the investment companies or VCs or angel investors, they need to see something actually working as a proof of their concept, the concept that you put in front of them. And until that time, you need to spend a lot of time in the development of your physical product.
Yes.
So you need to do it carefully because you don't have a big budget covering all the costs. Do it carefully, know exactly what you want to design, know your market and clients.
Yes.
So then you save your money correctly and spend it correctly. So when you have your prototype, it's actually really matching the market, and then you can cover up the rest of the process much easier.
Yeah, very interesting point there. So with you've touched a bit upon investors. Now, you mentioned you need to probably get down to more of a MVP sort of stage, a prototype phase, before an investor be willing to look at something. I know it's a difficult conversation. You said 3 months to 2 years. Now, that process can be a big investment for someone on their own. Have you seen people get funding early stage just off the back of an idea that maybe you've documented design on a CAD perspective, done some market research? Is that a possibility at that level?
There is a possibility, but it's very rare.
Okay.
Your idea needs to be very, very special,
Yes.
targeting a very, very special market, and you need to put together a very, very good business plan and pitch
Get it.
to an investor, which they really, for maybe a sort of a connection to similar industry or idea, they see that potential. Because just need to remember, at the end of the day, investors is looking for return on their investment.
Yes, correct.
And they know the failure point of any startup, so which is high. And it is even more high or higher in the hardware startups as well because of the cost. So for them, bearing all that risks, they need to see something really, really special at the very early stages. But most of the time, you need to go into that stage of having a prototype in your hand until you can talk to any investors and they'll listen to you about any possible investment.
In this space, I mentioned patents a little before, getting patented. How important or pivotal is it in the hardware space? And especially from an investment perspective, do investors want to see your ideas protected? And is that something that startup founders should be looking at, should be doing from the get-go? And at what time should they do that?
That's a very good question. First of all, I should say that I'm not an expert in patenting on IP protection.
That's okay.
But I said based on my experience in this game. It's like a two-sided blade. Anyone who's come with an idea, one of the first things that they've worried about is protecting their idea, especially when, even when they're coming to someone like DreamLaunch to say, all right, I have an idea I wanted to, share with you. Lots of the time they've worried about their ideas being spoofed and someone else's know it and maybe,
they bring their NDAs out and make everyone sign before they mention anything.
It's a lot of fear in the idea space.
Correct. That's right.
I think what they don't understand is we don't have the same passion, or we didn't come up with that idea, and you don't have the domain knowledge
to deliver.
You're not going to go and pursue that idea out to the market
development of something like this
them.
is really, really hard. It's not something that, as soon as you know an idea, you say, all right, perfect, I'm going to start building it tomorrow.
Yes.
You need to, as you said, you need to have that passion, the same as what they have. They need to have a lot of plan, hard works, money they need to spend. So it's not that easy that you just find an idea and just go and do it the next day.
Yes.
But
It's all
of
in the
course,
execution.
definitely, the execution is really always the key, the main, very important part of the whole journey of the startups. But what is important is that some of the idea is not really patentable as well.
Okay.
You know, it's a common product.
Mhm.
It's something that is already exists. The technology in there is around maybe before. There could be some patent on that as well.
Yes.
But you know, this is something again we do a bit too. When someone comes to us and say, "All right, I've got this idea. You know, this is a details of it." We look into quickly into other product which exist, and if there was a patent on similar product there, we will try to make sure that we don't cross that patent.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
when you patent your idea, it's actually you publish everything's on your technical, you know,
Correct. It's
data.
all
No
out there for
longer-
the public to see.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's no longer like a trade secret
Yes.
or anything. Everyone knows exactly what's involved.
Yes.
They just can't do it themselves.
Yes.
That's right. That's
Then
right.
the NDA becomes worth nothing because now the public knows what it is. That's another thing to probably raise.
That's
Yes.
right. You can protect it when you put everything. When you publish yourself,
Mhm.
everything's up for your technical.
Correct.
And it's not impossible. It's not
Uh-huh.
always very hard
Yes.
to find ways around your patent.
Mhm.
So that's a
Mhm.
specialty in Asia. That as soon as you put something out,
Yes.
they find some other ways
To build the same thing, basically.
yeah,
Yes.
build the same
Yeah.
things
Yes.
with a bit of change. And one other very important things, especially for the startups, if you are a big company, that's a different story.
Mhm.
But if you are a startup with very limited budget and a lot of cost and uncertainty
Yes.
in your process going forward, you don't want to, if not necessary,
Uh-huh.
to spend a lot of money on patenting of something
Yes.
of your idea
Mm.
and spending lots of your money in that process because it's not cheap really.
A global
And
patenting
then
of a product, I'd imagine, is very cheap. What sort of numbers are
no,
people
it's
looking
not.
at if they venture down that path?
It depends again on what sort of
Uh-huh.
patent you want to do. If you want to do it
Mhm.
as a full patent or only register provisional patents,
Okay.
and depends if you want to only, for example, register patent in Australia or internationally.
Yes.
They all has got different figures, but you're looking something around 20K.
Okay. Yeah, and that could be a prototype build,
this-
right? So, yeah.
Correct.
Mm.
That's exactly
Uh-huh.
right. So you spend a lot of your money in patenting.
Yes.
Of course, what I'm saying is that 20K is the whole process,
Mhm.
not only the provisional
Get it.
patent.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
then the problem is when you go into the rest of your process, there's a lot of ways that the people can either tweak your design because you already have all the details out there,
Yes.
or find a way around it. But even if they completely copy your idea,
Yes.
just imagine this: you don't want to go into court and defend your case.
Mhm.
That's going to bankrupt you.
Interesting.
Yep. Another cost.
Yes.
Is the cost? Even big companies, not even iPhone or Samsung, that always have fight on their technologies. They're not going to courts. They settle.
Yes.
Because even they know that there is a huge cost in the whole process of patenting.
Yep.
Yeah, the lawyers make all the
That's
money,
just
basically.
yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. So it's very tricky, and you most of the time will be better off if you spend that money on marketing and other things of your product.
That's an interesting take because a lot of people always looking to protect ideas and do everything that, but in reality, we still got to market this idea. We have to sell this idea. We have to engage our customers, and that's where money needs to be spent. And I know we see it in our space. I'm not sure about you. You probably see the same thing. A lot of people spend all their money developing a product and they don't even think about how they're going to market or actually get this in the hands of consumer. How do you find that, and how do you recommend people budget for those things?
Business development and marketing is really, really very important, especially in the physical game.
Yes.
Because of all the cost that you need to do to develop your product. You need to know your market very well. You need to know how you're going to sell it. You need to know your sales channels and all your business developments in terms of how much money you really need and where and when you need it.
Yes.
Very early. Because you can go into the product development of a physical product and you just spend all your money you have.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, or in the middle, actually, you will end up having no money
Yes.
and only a prototype in your hand or something ready for manufacture, but no money left for you. And you don't know where to start for marketing. You don't have any money to spend there. You don't know exactly your market. And then suddenly you find out, your clients or your customers doesn't really want this. They want another feature. You need to start from again.
Start again.
from start
Yes.
again.
And you don't have the budget anymore. You've burnt through the whole thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an
So that
interesting
business
space.
development is very important to do very early. And then you know how much money you need, what sort of steps you need to go through, when you need those sort of investments. Then you, at the time, you can go and approach, for example, an investor
Yes.
or someone to get involved and prepare all the budgets that you need for the project.
Oh, that's some really good information and insight there, Hamed. So now I'm at a prototype. So I've gone through this process. I've researched my market. I understand an idea. I've designed a product. You've done some CAD drawings. You built a little bit of a prototype. You mentioned beta prototyping. Can you explain a little bit more alpha and beta and what the differences are there? Just to clarify that for me.
Yeah, sure. When you're making, as I said, we have one sort of prototype before that, and that's what we call as mock-up. So
Okay.
in that mock-up it's something that you put together maybe with cardboard
Okay.
or
So
simple
something
things that you
really
have.
basic. Yep.
Yeah, really, really basic. Just to
wireframes.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's right. That's right. You only want to see your product. You see how it look like. Is
Understand.
that really how you imagine it? And for example, you have some very simple function. Is it really working or not? Or something like this.
Okay.
So you build it only with what you find, with minimum budget or minimum cost
Get
in
it.
there. But then when you get into the detail engineering and you have all the detailed bits of your product built and made, in the prototyping, there are a lot of different materials that you can use for,
Okay.
a lot of different processes that you can use for making a prototype. Lots of these rapid prototyping processes, like, for example, 3D printing.
Yes, I imagine that's changed the game a little bit in your space, 3D printing.
Yeah, definitely. That makes things very easy
Yes.
because you can build it. But even in that game, there's a lot of different processes. So the things that you can find in, for example, Harvey Norman or some other, normal shops that they're selling 3D printers, they're all usually only good for making toys and
Understand.
things.
Yeah,
They're not a real product that you can use. That the process of 3D printing is developed hugely in past few years.
Yes.
So there's a lot of different materials exist, a lot of different processes and methods exist that all can give you different products with different finishes, with different properties. You need to know which one you choose and for what reason. But these processes save you money because they are fast and they are easy to build. So,
and if it doesn't work, you can throw it in the bin quickly and do it again.
That's right. You can make
iteration is easy.
Change.
Yeah,
Correct.
It's not a large cost like you used to be having to make the mold for the injection molding,
Surely,
which you then have to offset the cost per unit long term.
That's right. These can be really, a huge cost for you. But then, just imagine of this: if you use a simple product like a simple process like 3D printing, your product won't be as strong as a finished product built by injection molding. It can have some functions, but not necessarily all the functions. It might not do, for example, that certain functions that you need in your product. It's good to look into it. It's good to see, for example, if dimensionally it fits to the rest. If, for example, there's any issues in the design, you need to, see and fix that later. But it's not really functioning as your finished product needs to be. So what we do at this stage, using fast and cost-effective processes like 3D printing and vacuum casting and similar things for building an alpha prototype. So we only can mainly find design issues, improvements on the design, finding the problems that it might be in the dimensions and look and whatever. But the product is not in a working condition.
Okay.
But then when we fix most of these problems, then we use some like semi-manufacturing processes like rapid injection molding and CNC machining and things like this on a better materials or even exactly the same materials that needs to be manufactured or used for the finished product. So that is actually called beta prototype. It's a working prototype.
It's working, it's operational, it's representing the product.
Correct. If it's, for example, an IoT electronic in there, we actually build all the
components
the
in there.
boards and all the components in there.
Understand.
It's actually working.
Okay.
And then you can test the whole functions, test how it works, improve and work on the design still. Usually there's always something to, improve and fix. And
it's never perfect, is it? Because once you see it in a physical world, it's very different to what you imagine. Even seeing it on a CAD drawing on a computer, it's very different once you get it in physical hands.
That's right. and you actually do that function and say, oh, that's actually when I fold this part, that's actually touching somewhere else.
Yes.
And you can't really see it
Uh-huh.
unless you have it on your hand and do that.
Understand the physical.
Yeah,
function
and then the
checking.
cardboard to that prototype
very different.
It's too rough or it's too smooth. The corners are too sharp.
Yes.
Correct.
That's another probably thing
Yeah.
that comes out.
Uh-huh. So now,
Yes, and just one
Yes.
last thing I
Yeah,
want to
sure.
add to this is that, when you have all that process done, then we usually need to do another very important process is called design for manufacturing.
Okay.
Because
Mhm.
everything you do at this prototyping stage is actually done for prototyping.
Yeah, to get
for
the result of the
processes that are
prototype,
used in
right?
there. That's right. So when you go into the manufacturing, then you need to adjust and adopt your drawing and all the dimensions to the manufacturing specifications.
Okay.
You need to make sure that, if I'm going to use, for example, an injection molding machine,
Yes.
then I need to have the draft angles right. We need to consider how it's going to be manufactured in an injection molding machines. We need to provide all the tolerances for the parts. I need to specify exactly the materials that are going to be used and make sure that it's already exist, for example, in this market. If I'm going to manufacture a product in Australia, I need to make sure that the product I have specified, it's actually exists in this market. And not I just found it in the internet. That's
And
good.
hope for the best.
That's right. So these are a few important things that needs to be prepared for manufacturing.
Yes.
Then
It sounds like a very thorough process that people need to go through. It's not just, I have an idea and print it on a 3D printer and off I go and start manufacturing. There's a lot that goes into this process. You mentioned, minimum 3 months is probably where you're sort of looking, but it can be a couple of year process for more intricate products. So there's quite a bit there.
That's right. Yes, it's not an easy task.
Yes.
It's an enjoyable process. Lots of people. We definitely certainly love the whole process, and that's why we're doing it.
It's a
We are
creative
lot of
process
different
too, right?
It is.
It's not.
It
It's
is.
not just that's
Problem
yeah.
solving.
It's problem solving. It's creative. It's from a hardware perspective. You've got your own challenges. Obviously, we work in a software space. We follow a similar guideline to you with slight variations on the process. Like obviously, we don't have a piece of hardware that we
That's right.
produce and have to test, but you do want to be prototype. You do need testing. You do want to be talking to customers. If someone's looking out there to build IoT devices, you need to think about hardware and software. That's why we're raising this conversation and brought Hamed on today, just to start thinking about what the process could look like there, because all of a sudden, if you're doing something in the IoT space, you've got a hardware channel that is developing, plus then you have a software channel that's developing at the same time.
There's two pieces of software really. There's the low-level stuff that runs on the device itself.
That's right.
Plus whatever customer-facing interface there is to get whatever data you're collecting or using.
That could be an app, that could be a web portal that reports data.
They all need to talk to each other. They need to develop it together and make sure that that piece of hardware and software actually working together in a way that your customers really enjoy using your device.
Yep.
Now, Hamed, the Kickstarters of the world, I think Anthony mentioned it earlier. So do you find people jumping on Kickstarter? I've seen some significant amount of funding raised on Kickstarter, but clearly they've invested quite a bit to get to that point anyway. And are they at a point, generally, sometimes you've got a prototype even. So you've mentioned this if you're looking for investors. If someone's looking to maybe Kickstarter products, you still probably need to go through that phase of testing the market, understanding their customers, testing, prototyping, and have something to show, because it's really going to help you in the longevity of that. So crowdfunding, how is that impacting the people you work with? And do you see people using crowdfunding to source funding?
Yeah, I think it's a very popular platforms to raising money.
Yes.
Crowdfunding is popular these days. You can see a lot of very successful projects and products that's raised a lot in crowdfunding. Of course, it's becoming like an art by itself, how to do it properly, because I've seen a lot of unsuccessful campaigns as well, which they haven't really raised enough money or the amount that they maybe expected before. But what I can say in there is, we all see startups that they're looking to going to the crowdfunding and probably raise some money, because as we said, the process of product development, especially physical or if the product is a bit complex, is expensive. So the founder is looking to any other means that they can raise money in their process. Crowdfunding is not only for raising money, it could be good for raising awareness too and finding your early adopter customers.
So it becomes a marketing exercise.
Market research basically could be too.
It gauges your customer base. Are they willing to pay at the different tiers that you're offering, your pricing model?
So you actually check that. You can actually check and get reviews and people's that they know about or they want your product and interested in.
Yes.
So that's a way to get the words out
Okay.
and sort of test your market.
Mhm.
That's a very good thing. But what I see is that lots of the people, the founders might do it wrong or they have a misconceptions. And that's, I don't know about the software development, but I see a lot more in the hardware because of as I said, the whole process is much longer.
Yes.
So some of the people, they getting in low budget and they think, all right, now I need to raise some money and I don't have anyone around myself to get money
Mhm.
from. So, and I'm not ready to.
Mum and Dad don't have
go to the
a
investor.
nest egg behind them to go and take some money from.
That's right.
Yes.
So I say, all right, I'm gonna
Yes.
start a campaigns in Kickstarter or Indiegogo or somewhere else's and raise some money
Yes.
to cover some of the cost. The problem is that these people don't realize is that is not a funding
Strategy. Mhm.
a strategy or actually a platform. You actually pre-sale your
Yes,
product.
correct.
So you just make liability for your company,
Mm.
not actually you just raise money
Mhm.
to do the rest of the process. So if you have already few people that actually bought your product, they're expecting you to deliver the product in your timeline.
Correct.
So that is the cost you need to spend on manufacturing, not on product development. Because you spend all that money on the product development and then you get to the manufacturing and then you run out of the
Interesting
money.
point you've
You
just
don't
raised
have
there.
money to
Yeah.
do the manufacturing.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah, that's
customer
why
gets
a lot of those
frustrated.
things get funded but never go anywhere,
Yeah.
and they all just fail.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can see a lot of stories in the Kickstarters and similar that they're still waiting for the product and nothing delivered. That's why you see a lot of people don't trust. Still there are a lot of good people that they support your product and idea, but there's a negativity in lots of these gadgets that you can find in the Kickstarter or Indiegogo.
Yeah, people, even the ones investing, they think they're investing in something, not buying something.
Correct. Yes.
Which they're actually buying something.
That's right. They're buying. They pay in advance for the product that's supposed to be delivered to them in that time frame. That you already tell them that it would be.
I've done a couple Kickstarter things. Bought things. One was on time, and one took like 8 months to get to me.
Yeah.
At least you got it. So sometimes you don't get it.
Yeah, that's right. You're lucky that at least you got the product.
But
because that's the main problem. You raise that money and you think that all right, that's good. I've got this money. I'm gonna spend it in finishing the product development. But especially if you don't have all the good plans and you know exactly what you're doing, this money can go very easily and you spend it all. And then your main cost in actually the manufacturing, then you're going to make the molds for your product and you're going to go to the manufacturers and find all the supply chain costs that you need to cover. I have some examples that I know exactly on the details that there was a very good product in Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Actually, they have both platforms. There was a launch box that it raised about more than $2 million.
For a lunchbox.
$2 million US.
Lunchbox, yes.
That was a very successful project, a campaign. And there was 3 guys that actually worked on that idea. And they said, all right, they got the money, a very good, successful campaign. And they said, all right, we'll go to China. They went into China. They hired a 5-star hotel. They have the money.
Of course they
said, all right, I'll
splash it around.
That's right. So say, all right, we're going to the, a manufacturer, a very good, reputable manufacturer that work with the high, good brands. And so, all right, this is our product. Let's make the samples on the product. And, maybe a month we'll be back with all the product and we send it to the customers. I know that they were in China for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And at the end of it, they have got
nothing. And
they
probably no money
all that
too.
Money.
Wow.
Yeah. They spent all that money and they couldn't get it right because they haven't done the whole process of development completely. And they were hoping that they can do it with the supplier, which is not happening most of the time.
So that's equivalent to, you get an idea and go, we'll do it in China because it's cheap. And then in software, someone's saying, we'll get it done in India because it's cheap.
And just sending it there and not even thinking about what it is to begin with. Yeah, interesting.
And getting it done properly.
Get it. So you're basically jumping from... So you've done a bit of market research because you're able to sell it, and you're jumping straight to manufacturing. You've skipped all the testing, all the prototyping phases, understanding what it means to actually manufacture this, the challenges you might have. Because a manufacturer, that's not their job. They generally get, I imagine...
Schematics.
Yes,
and
correct.
Do it off that probably.
So going to the wrong people to solve the wrong problem. Yeah.
If
so
you don't
ideally,
know exactly...
using that Kickstarter model, you should have gone through the whole process and you're raising you're selling the product, but you're going to use that money for the manufacturing only. You should have done everything to that point and know what your manufacturing costs are going to be for, say, the first 1,000 run.
Correct.
And then you'll know how much money to raise.
Yeah, and how much you can sell your
That's right.
product for as well. So you'll know everything from that at that point.
Yes, that's totally right.
Yeah, otherwise, what are you basing your numbers on?
Yeah, correct.
You're making all these tiered things and giving away discounts, but what is that actually calculated
Some
from?
numbers people pluck on a spreadsheet and hope for the best sometimes. Yeah, that's the unfortunate world.
That's not realistic.
Correct. So, Hamed, can you tell us a little bit about some of the projects you've been involved in? I'm actually intrigued as to some of the stuff you've designed, maybe got to market. Obviously, can't talk about stuff that's under NDA, but maybe some things that you worked on in the past that excite you and some interesting products out there.
Yes, we're working a very, very wide range of the product, and that's very exciting as well because, we're not getting bored at all.
Get it.
That's right. But as you said, I cannot unfortunately tell you any details of the project that we're working because of the confidentiality agreement that we have with all the people that we are working
Understand.
with.
Yeah.
But just to give you an idea about a range or what sort of a product we're working with is, one of them I can tell it's the product which is already in the market and they have a website, so there's no secret that I would be worried about telling it, is the product called Magino. It's a smart cup.
Okay.
It's actually a very interesting concept because it's got a very niche special technology which is used in aerospace and some spaceships actually.
Okay.
It's convert the heat to electricity and vice versa. And the whole idea is that you have a mug that, for example, you want to have your tea or coffee or maybe even, for example, a beer in it. And what's happening for most of us might be is that, you have your coffee and then you get busy with, your emails or something that you are working on and your coffee gets cold. So it actually, you can set it in your app, the temperature of the drink you want to have.
Okay.
And then they keep it in that temperature for as long as you want to have your
interesting
drink.
model. I like it.
That's right. So it's a complex, as you can say, it's a combination of the IoT with the hardware, the mechanical, electronics.
Is that material too? What type of
the
material did you use to produce that?
It has got a lot of different things in it. So it's the body is aluminum, that part of it is stainless steel, and some other parts is, for example, plastic. Then it's got, for example, some sealing gel in it and some other. So it's a very complex in terms of different materials.
Interesting.
And, even the plastic parts is completely different from part to part. So it's a very complex product. For example, apart from that, we have worked on different type of glasses. Some glasses that we're working at the moment. For example, it's a modular glass that is designed for kids and it can grow with them.
Okay, so it grows with the kids.
Size.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Or for example, we had another idea of glasses that called shower glass. It's something that you can, or ladies usually can wear when they're going to take a shower and they have a makeup. We want to make sure that the makeup stays there. So, for example, we have a different panels and modular panels idea that we work for the schools in terms of sound barriers and things like this.
Interesting. That's a variety of things, isn't it? There.
Oh yeah, definitely. We had worked on, for example, a set of different tweezers and other products for women. The whole design of it. We're working on an idea for air conditioning in terms of sense generations and device. We have a special PowerPoint that it's in the electrical game. We have a smart suitcase.
Smart suitcase. How can a suitcase
it's a very
be
interesting
smart?
ideas. Unfortunately, I can't tell you
that's
the details
okay.
of it. But it's a very interesting concept. It's very detailed and very special mechanism on the suitcase. But that's something that's
that part there is interesting because that world touches upon also then fashion. So you have to be fashionable as well as a product that adds value. And you can't be the same. Not everyone likes the same things, so it becomes interesting. So very a lot of variety there of different products. Some with IoT, some without. Some just particular solving certain problems. So yeah, if you're looking to build something physical, Hamed, we came across, and I love the name DreamLaunch. I just think it's a brilliant little name in terms of we all have a dream sometimes around ideas and concepts. And I see that the DreamLaunch name. I think it's a brilliant name and a brilliant business that you're building behind it.
That's one of the things that we have built the DreamLaunch based on. That's our dream, let's say, and we like that everyone with a dream can make it happen.
It's
and
brilliant.
be here to help.
You must start getting some emails from me now, Hamed. More about
Anthony's
what you do.
Anthony's
Great ideas all
our
the time.
ideas guy. And hardware,
correct.
we've thought about a lot hardware, but it's just like it is a complex beast. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, we start with a Raspberry Pi prototype because it's something
Yes.
we can put together ourselves and we can code
Yes,
it.
correct. If
Mhm.
we can code something, it's
That's
easy.
right.
It's generally something IoT, but I think that's been a lot of fun exploring the world of hardware. Is there anything important that you'd like to leave our listeners with that are thinking about building an idea or a concept that's got some physical component to it?
Only I can give a general advice, which, as I said, do your research. You don't be regretful of the time that you spend on doing more research and customer development.
Yes.
Try to focus on your customer's problem, not the solution you're developing for them. Try to analyze and find out about your idea before you start the whole process of product development. Know as much as you can about your customers and your market. And it's a long, a difficult process. Of course, it's a very fine line between what you need to hear from your customers or whoever you approach to getting a feedback. Lots of people can have a negative approach. They say, oh, that's not going to work. That's not a good idea or whatever. You need to listen, but not just to get upset and forget it. There's a lot of people that they have an idea and never act on it because of some negativity that they get from their
It's
product.
their baby. It can be challenging
Yeah.
to get negative feedback, and people don't like rejection, and that's perceived as rejection. But in reality, you have to take that hat off and just be really subjective about an idea. It's not easily done. If you can't do it, maybe you need to employ someone to help you do that. That's something to think about too, because some people just don't like that negative feedback, and how getting someone to help you with that could be a way to move forward too.
Problem with that is some ideas need to be rejected.
Yes, it's true too.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
that's what I
you'll
said.
learn that lesson the
Yes.
hard way, and then it'll cost you a couple $100,000.
If not more in
Correct,
this space. Yes.
As I
Yeah.
said, it's a very fine line between listening and at the same
Yes.
time not getting too upset and forget. Because if you have a dream, you don't want to just leave it and then you have that regret with yourself for your whole
Yes.
life. Say,
Yeah.
I wish I've done
Yes.
it.
Get it.
Yeah, so that's the difference between having a product that definitely won't work, or like Elon Musk saying, I want to make a reusable rocket, and everyone telling him no.
Yes.
No, yeah. And you need to be a lot persistent.
Anything in life that's
Together.
worth doing needs persistence. And it takes a lot of hard work and effort and evolution. So we never have all the right answers to begin with. So just be willing to look. And I think you mentioned something really important there. I mean, focus on the problem, because sometimes you may have found a big problem and your idea maybe isn't perfect to solve that problem, and your customers may help you evolve that, or potential customers may have evolved that to an actual delivery of a product that maybe you didn't even think about in the first place. So, or you've evolved it that far, it doesn't even look like the original product. So, iteration, let's say, people.
Or it's a problem that's not worth solving, even though there is a problem.
Yeah.
One of the other podcasts we had, someone mentioned someone they knew had come up with a way to squeeze all the toothpaste out of a tube. And when they actually surveyed people, that was a problem, but it was a very, very low priority problem. So it wasn't worth fixing. No one would pay for this special tube rolling toothpaste.
That's right. We have the same idea. Someone has come to us and asking, I'm looking for developing a new product that I can use. That a little amount of liquid or whatever remains at the end of the bottle. Said, yes, really, you can find some solutions. We can develop something, but is that really important for lots of people?
Yes.
To save 15 cents of whatever you
if that,
on that product.
So it's the importance, and I think you touched on it there, Anth. What is the pain point? Like, how bad is that pain point? How is it a 10 out of 10 pain point? I would pay whatever I need to get this done, or is it 1 out of 10 where I can live with that? If you're working on the 1 out of 10, you're probably working in the wrong space. So good to find it out early.
Correct. That's right. And don't do it alone.
I like that point, because collaboration is king, and it's much easier with more people. Agree.
Surely.
Yes. Yep. No, very good, Hamed. I want to thank you for coming on today to the DevReady Podcast and talking something a little bit different, more about hardware and delivering hardware to a market. But I really appreciate it. We'll share out your contact details on LinkedIn when we post this. And if anyone wants to contact Hamed, you can get in contact with him at dreamlaunch.com.au. Check out their website. There's a bit of content there around the processes that they follow, and there's some certain ways to actually maybe start off the process through the blogs that they've got. So thank you, Hamed. Thank you for joining us.
Yep.
Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thank you.
Don't forget your
You
drink.
too. Thank you.